Good morning, my name is Peter Shields and on behalf of VMX Scientific I'm pleased to welcome you to today's webinar, Gas Detection Made Easier Through Advanced Safety Features. With so many technological advancements happening in the gas detection market, it's great to have Lisa Mork Davis, Director in Advanced Safety and Wireless Applications from Industrial Scientific Corporation, to present on this topic. Lisa has over 20 years of gas detection experience and Industrial Scientific is at the forefront of developments in this area. I'm sure you'll find her presentation extremely interesting. So over to you now, Lisa.
Thank you, Peter, and thank you all for joining me today, and good day from the United States, and I'm very pleased to be here with you. Okay, so I put together a presentation, and I actually did something quite similar to this last year, but what I've done is really added a lot of new material because it has been such a quite exciting year for Industrial Scientific. 2016 was huge for us. We introduced 2 new product platforms. We've introduced new wireless capabilities, which we'll talk about. So much has happened in a year, and I'm really quite pleased to kind of be here today to go through those changes and really talk about how all the things that we've introduced have really, I think, we hope, have made life easier for our customers and for the people that actually work and use our equipment every day to save lives. We hope that these safety features will continue to enhance and again, protect and save lives. So with that, I'll get started. So some of the objectives today, I just really kind of framed it around really understanding what kind of challenges that professionals are facing when choosing and using gas detection. We know there's a lot of them. We'll talk about the advances, as I mentioned earlier, that we can help to take that guesswork out of gas detection because we know it can be a challenge. One of the things we'll focus on is really a question that comes up a lot is how to more efficiently manage gas monitors, how we can do things like assign monitors and do check-ins and things like that. And really talk about then some of the new technology, including our wireless communications capabilities and how we can enable those technologies to help you react a lot more quickly in emergency situations and again help protect and save lives. So one of the things that we're very strong about is our vision statement. Our vision is that industrial scientific people are dedicating our careers to eliminating death on the job. It was actually up until last week by the end of this century. But Justin McElhatton and the Board of Directors with Industrial Scientific have just announced this week that they have moved that date and accelerated it to the end of this, to mid-century of 2050. So what that means for quite a lot of you that may be already currently working and looking towards retirement, it will probably be again in our working careers that we're trying to really make that a reality. So we're very, very serious about what we do every day. Our mission statement again is preserving human life on and above and below the earth. We really, really mean it when we say we want to deliver the highest quality products and best customer service every transaction, every time. So that's just to set up a little bit about what we're about. One of the things we also refer a lot is being ready for the moment, and what this will mean as we get through this presentation is the moment is that critical time when you or a worker is out there and they have a change in their environment or something's happened that could potentially critically injure them or even, unfortunately, where they could lose their life. We talk about that moment where those people could be either saved or lost. And that moment is really critical to us, and we think our equipment and the equipment and how people use the equipment is really what can help make the difference between life and death. So when we talk about today some of the features that we'll reflect on, how can you be ready for that moment? And we take that very much to heart. So the response to the moment really starts with the user. It starts with the people using the equipment. The people that need to be equipped using this life or death type of savings equipment. They want to have the best possible outcome, obviously, in the midst of doing all the other things they have to do their work every day. So responding and knowing how to respond to that moment is really, really critical. I put some statistics just to kind of frame it today. And in the year 2015, which is the most recent year, we have a year statistics, 195 workers were killed on the job in Australia. Over 4,800 actually lost their life in the United States in that year. That's a huge, staggering number. We don't want that number to continue to rise. As I mentioned, by 2050, we'd like to end that. And make those numbers go away. In 2015, just also to recognize, over half or almost half of those workers are actually involved in transportation incidents, and those numbers are according to Safe Work Australia. We actually have the similar statistics in the United States. Over half those deaths of 4,800 were related to transportation. So we know that gas detection alone will not end death on the job. There's more that we need to do to get there. And so we hope some of the technologies that we'll be putting in place and continue to introduce over the coming years will help to end that statistic. So again, we talk about what about in the moment, such as, for example, what do we do if a worker can't get help? Let's say they've fallen, tripped over a cord, and they can't get up. How would you help them in that moment? Or how could they help themselves? One of the features that we'll talk about today is our panic button. We've introduced this in our platform instrument, the Ventus Pro series, and that panic button can be pressed very, very quickly and easily so that it can be alerted. You can alert others in the event of an injury or a fall, etc. Similarly, what if a worker's fallen and gone unconscious, if they're knocked out? They can't get to their radio or what have you. They've just fallen and they can't get up at all. The instrument then, at this point, for instance, in our Ventus Pro series, has an accelerometer in it, and it can an audible alert will be prompted for the user to move. If he or she does not move that instrument in the allotted amount of time, alarm called a man down alarm will sound, and in that instance, again, people nearby can hopefully rescue that worker and help save their life. So again, really being very conscious about what we can do in those critical moments. So the next thing I want to talk about is really how to take the pain out of using a gas detector. We know that gas detection isn't really fun. It's not something people really want to do and use in their everyday work life. But what we do want to do is make sure that instruments can provide the right solution for the right type of environment and the right type of area that they're going to be working in. Instruments have come a long way, and I'll mention a few of these things here. Size is one huge one. If they're going to be worn, used on a worker, for an 8 to 12-hour shift, obviously you want it to be comfortable. A lot of new features in our instruments and others out there that have enabled things, really essentially the product to do more. So that's one other area. Functionality, for example, our new Ventus Pro has the ability to be both a diffusion or a pumped instrument, and we will be introducing a slide on pump as well. So there's a lot of versatility to our instruments. We'll talk about a few more pointers here in a little bit. Number of sensors. There's just such an immense growth in sensor development. Technology continues to evolve in that area with the infrared sensors and combustible gas sensors. So there's a lot of different availability of types of sensors and the number of sensors you can put in an instrument because the size has now shrunk down as well. Things to look for is warranty. Again, people don't want to worry about maintenance, so warranty is a big factor. Guaranteed for life is something that we offer here at Industrial Scientific on our products. Ease of use and maintenance. How do you calibrate? How do you make it easy to dock and maintain your equipment? So again, we've done some things in that area to help you. Pairing with docking stations. Docking stations are huge. Docking stations are a way not only to bump and cal your instruments, but they're a way to download your data for information after the fact. Software is finally another area that things have come a long way with software. Software possibilities are endless. So we'll continue to see a lot of improvements there. So as I mentioned, 2016 was a huge year for Industrial Scientific. We introduced 2 huge new platforms of gas detection. In April, we introduced the Ventus Pro. They're on the left of your screen, and that is our 4 and 5 gas monitor for personal monitoring. On the right, we introduced our Radius BZ1, and that was introduced in September. So both platforms, which we'll talk about here a little bit more, have a lot of great features built in. And because they're a platform, they have some things that will continue to evolve and add on to them in future dates. And thirdly, the last piece we introduced was our Lens Wireless. What that stands for is Linked Equipment Networked for Safety. So it's an acronym. So we'll talk about all of those three things today and really how they can help take that guesswork out of the gas detection realm for you. So something we want to mention is when the users or workers are actually using our equipment, how do you make sure that they know how to use the instrument, how they can select the right instrument to use, and that they're maintaining it? And finally, people that are using gas detection, that's not their primary job, obviously. They're doing things, they could be welding, they could be doing maintenance work, wherever their job may be, and we want to make sure that they focus on that job, doing what they need to be out there doing most, where gas detection really needs to be there to keep them safe, but enable them to do their job safely. And lastly, what about those that don't use gas detection frequently? Perhaps it's a job that doesn't require daily use of gas detection. Maybe it's just on occasion or when they're doing a certain project. So we want to help look for ways that we can reduce the reliance on periodic training. Because when they go to pick up an instrument, they don't want to remember, oh gosh, how do I use this? What needs to be done? We really want to try and make it simple so that they don't have to worry about those things. And again, they can just go focus on their job. So the statement here is, don't distract me. I have work to do. Just let me go do my job. Focus on what matters most, make it simple for them, and look for ways to reduce that reliance on periodic training. So with the platform that we've introduced with both Ventus Pro and the Radius BZ1, we've introduced a few things that we'll talk about here. First of all, I have a comment from one of our customers. They said, you know what, I'm a welder. Just let me weld. Okay, so we can help you do that. We can do a few things here I'll mention. So on the left, you'll see some actual screenshots from our instruments. So the first one would be custom startup messages. The first one on the top left says fall protection required on a catwalk. And you'll actually see an OK button on the bottom right. So those custom startup messages can be programmed, customized by you or the persons in charge of the equipment. Can be done on our iNet control. And what they can do is enable you to customize anything that you want to do to alert the workers using the equipment at the start of their day. So we said here, fall protection required. Maybe it could be a reminder. Maybe you have a safety message of the month that you want to talk about. And the great thing is you can make this acknowledgeable, meaning that they actually have to press the OK button there to continue on and you start using the equipment. So it helps reinforce safety, different safety features. Dock overdue, we'll talk about that in a little bit, but we can do things like customized maintenance reminders, bump, calibration, dock due, etc. You also have the options to turn screens on or off, so you can make it really simple, or you can give the information, lots of information to the worker as well. And lastly, we can password protect all of these settings. So you don't have to worry about these settings getting interrupted by a worker accidentally or in a malicious way. We can protect all of that so that you just literally just have the worker use the equipment and use it how they need to. So the next area I'll talk about is some of the advancements that could be available to take that guesswork out. So going back to the Ventus Pro, our personal gas monitor, one of the features that we introduced when we introduced the product was called alarm action messages. So it's really great, I think, to think about. So if a worker has an instance on the right of the screen, you'll see they had an SO2 alarm of 5 parts per million. So if I was to use the instrument and maybe I'm not familiar and I'm a worker that uses it very seldomly, or it's just not something I'm comfortable with, again, maybe I'm a welder, just let me weld. I don't know perhaps what SO2 at 5 parts per million really means to me, but what we've done is we've allowed you as the person setting up the equipment to put in unique messages. So we have unique messages populated, such as evacuate, don your SCBA. You can also customize these for your specific needs, ventilate, evacuate, etc. So really what it means is it really tells the worker exactly what they need to do in that instance, rather than trying to guess, oh, 5 parts per million, what does that mean? What should I be doing now? What does this alarm mean? Oh my gosh, I mean there's 4 different alarms, high, low, peak, cell, TWA, so there's lots of information coming at you. So when an alarm comes up, you want to make it really simple for the user to, okay, recognize that this is what needs to be done. This is what action needs to be taken in that moment. So as I said, don't guess, take action. The other thing is we've done full screen alarms. So again, letting that worker focus on what's important. For example, here with carbon monoxide, it's at 50 parts per million. In this instance, going back to the last screen on the left, you can see all the readings all at once. But here on the right, in this screen, you'll see it go right to the sensor that's under alarm. In this instance, it's carbon monoxide. So again, it's full screen alarms. It lets them know exactly what they need to do, and then you can customize that with a customizable alarm action message. Talked about a little bit earlier about simplifying calibration and maintenance. So maintenance is, of course, just like any type of electronics or gas detection, you need to make sure that your equipment is calibrated and maintained right over the life of that instrument. So in order to do that, we've provided you with the ability to provide maintenance reminders. In this case here on the screen on the right, it says dock overdue. So these are alerts that remind the user about what's needed and when to take action. For example, if it's a bump that they need to go do, if it's a daily bump, or if it's cal overdue, you can make sure that those alerts are there at the ready so they can take action. Dock overdue also, if they need to go and dock their instrument, they can actually, just says right there on the screen, again, focusing on the action, not on the problem. We put it here as sort of a check engine light for your instrument. I mentioned earlier this a little bit, but startup messages is customizable messages on startup that can remind that worker to stay alert or provide any safety messages that you want to transfer to your workers out there. I put that reminder up there again. Greater than 90% of deaths in the workplace do not involve gas exposure. So if there's a way we can help alert people about some of the other hazards that they could be encountering, maybe there's a rise in a certain accident type on the job, maybe we want to start reinforcing that safety message, this would be a great way to do it. Next thing we'll talk about is how to easily assign location and sites on gas detection monitors. So one of the things that we often talk about is data. Data is really important, obviously, to our customers. They want data, they want to be able to capture data, and when they download the data, they're actually sometimes quite overwhelmed with the data. I'll show you a picture at the top of the screen right now. It says, this is an example of one data log, high H2S alarm at 9:15 a.m., 50 parts per million, and this is the serial number. Okay, so if I've gone back and done my monthly reporting system and I've decided that this need to do a type of search on different alarms, how would I know who was using that instrument and perhaps even where they were at this type of at this incident? So what if that could change to say, instead of that serial number, to say Scott and Tank 1 or wherever they may be? So again, so if you're doing your monthly data reporting, at the end of, say, at the beginning of April, I want to do my March report, I could have a better way to know where that alarm happened and who was using it. And we'll do that with our new technology called iAssign. So this technology was introduced with the Ventus Pro series back in April. And how we do assigning of monitors is through our iAssign tags. I put a picture of 4 of the different tags here up on the screen, and I'll walk you through them. So at the top there are two here that are a little hard plastic. On the top left is our keychain tag. On the top right is an outdoor tag. Actually, as a whole, you could bolt it to a wall or hang it up on a hang tag or something like that. And then the bottom 2 are our sticker tags and a waterproof sticker tags. So these tags are using what we call NFC technology. It's sort of like RFID. It's called near field communication. So this is actually the first of our 3 radios we'll talk about that are embedded in the Ventus Pro series. So NFC, near field communication, is a very simple and easy and extremely low power way to transfer information from the tag to the instrument. Go to the next slide, and so what we can do, we can show you actually how this works. So the way you take the tag in the middle, you would actually assign it through an app on a phone or on a tablet that has near-field communication. Right now, the only this app is only available on an Android phone. Unfortunately, Apple has not allowed NFC open to any on the open market, so it's right now limited to Android. But quite easily, the tags can be programmed using this technology. It can be programmed once or over again, and it can be tagged on with a name and or a location. So you can see on the app on the left, it says read tag, write tag, buy tags, and write bulk tags. So there's a bunch of things you can do on the tag. So quite simply, you grab your tag that you want to assign, you go up to read tag, tap it to the instrument, and away you go. These can be reused hourly, daily, weekly, and how you transfer that information is, again, take that tag and tap it right on the top of the Ventus Pro, right over the logo, and now you've transferred that information of that user's name and or location onto that instrument. That instrument will be retained until the instrument's shut off or until you retag it onto somebody else. So it's a great feature if you want to assign instruments to a person and you want to do it on the fly, or you want to do it over and over again. Perhaps it's a fleet of equipment that are being assigned every day, but it's a great way to get that information onto the instrument quite quickly. Technology can also help lead to a lot faster responses in emergency situations. I'll tell you about that next. So we'll talk about another type of wireless communication. It's called Linked Equipment Network for Safety. So we introduced this technology in December with the Ventus Pro and in September with the Radius BZ1. And so what this is a mesh wireless protocol that we introduced. It's proprietary to Industrial Scientific, and it is a way to do what we call peer-to-peer alarms, or sharing data between gas detectors within a range of between 100 to 300 meters. As I said, this is available on both of these products, and we introduced the Ventus Pro with Lens in December of this last year. So as I said, introducing all these products together with the Lens proprietary wireless protocol has made us for a very busy year. Give you a little bit better picture of what the Linked Equipment Network for Safety does. We really wanted to help our customers that are using our equipment focus on what's happening at that location. Again, being ready for the moment is really critical. So, a few of the things that we wanted to do. We wanted to make wireless technology very, very easy to use, out of the box, ready to go. So, quite simply, both the Ventus Pro and the Radius, as soon as you pull them out of the box, it's either joining very quickly by tapping the instruments together, or actually just in the Radius case, just pulling them out of the box and they're ready to go. There's no setup required. There's no infrastructure required. There's no hardware. There's no other links that you need. There's nothing like that required to actually get these instruments to commute immediately out of the box wirelessly. Finally, also, you don't need to involve your IT group or your IT people to get this set up as well. And then there's no central dispatcher or controller needed. So what it means with a mesh system is that the information is transferred between the instruments, and up to 25 monitors can be put together in a network. And they pass information between each other very, very easily and simply, and they can go, as I mentioned, up to distances of 300 meters. So any lens-enabled monitor can be reviewed real-time readings for other gas monitors within the group. So what I mean by that is that, so for example, on this catwalk here, we've got two people using a Ventus Pro, and there's also a Radius here. All three of those types of equipment, actually another Radius, sorry, two Radius. So all of those instruments are, in this instance, in a network together, and they're all communicating their data together. So on the right screen, you can see actually it says peer devices. So it actually lists out the peer devices. So all of those four pieces of equipment are relaying between each other what's going on, what's happening all at the time. So we're talking about being ready for the moment. It's knowing what's happening with my workers or in that environment, at that area at that time. We're not relying on a remote person or a remote host computer to understand what's happening, to relay that information back to the workers. It's the people in the area doing the work that need to be protected. So that's why we introduced what we call peer-to-peer monitoring, or lens wireless. Peer readings provide both alarms and data. So for example, in this scenario here at this catwalk, you can actually see the two people. So let's say that the person on the bottom floor, if they encountered a reading and let's say their oxygen levels dipped, in this instance it went down to, sorry, in this instance with the LEL went to 20.0, and there's actually an H2S alarm, all that information would be relayed to all the other instruments in that network. So that other person could actually determine, let's say in this example, if it's a low oxygen, they probably don't want to come near them. It may be a scenario, depending on the alarm, they don't want to come rescue that person. They need to come send in help. They need to don a respirator, whatever. All too often you've heard about incidents where people go to rescue another worker and they themselves get hurt or injured because they've now entered the zone where that other person perhaps was knocked unconscious because of a low oxygen or a different type of sensor going to alarm because of a high gas environment. So talks about really protecting your workers, protecting them at the location, and protecting their back, or making sure that they're protected. So I hope that makes sense. So all these improvements, we think, can help you do a few things. It can give you a lot of more options. We can find ways to help you with the challenge of gas detection. There's a lot of things on the market right now, in particular with Industrial Scientific, that really have, I think, pushed the envelope and given a lot more tools for our customers to be able to use gas detectors in a meaningful way, and really making sure that they're safe. Better worker productivity. Finding all these features that could mean the difference between worker downtime, workers that are out and have to go do frequent trainings and that sort of thing. We've even just had a customer example where they're using the iAssign tags to actually tag in before they go into a confined space. They actually tag in and then tag back out, and so the worker's manager can actually determine how long they're in the confined space for and talk about improving that, or worker productivity. So iAssign could be just one of those tools that can help you there. What if you're concerned about maybe just managing your fleet in a better way? Maybe it's where you don't need as much equipment. Maybe you have different sensors that you need to have flexibility in. The nice thing again with having iAssign, you can quickly assign instruments to different people very quickly. You can also have instruments that can have different sensors available to them. You can swap sensors out. You can make it very easily to do that. And then again, really, responding in an emergency, we need to do that quickly. And how do we do that? We can do that, for example, on the Ventus Pro with both the vibration or panic button and the man down with the accelerometer in it. So again, if workers knocked out or they're in distress, they need some way to get help, we'll be able to do that with our different features in the Ventus Pro. So that might have gone a little bit fast, but that's kind of where we're at for the day. There's always much more to tell you about. I know that I have provided both a white paper and a data sheet on the Ventus Pro. I've provided a nice white paper that tells you a little bit more about some of the things I probably couldn't all get to today. I really encourage you to take a look at that, download that at your leisure so you can read more up on it.
If you have any further questions on anything that was discussed today, please feel free to contact me. Airmet Scientific's represented the industrial scientific product range in Australia for over 15 years. So if you'd like any further information, please feel free to contact us. And finally, thanks Lisa for your time today.
You're very welcome. Thank you for the time, everybody. I appreciate it, and look forward to seeing you one day down under.